Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report. It's great to be back with you this week for our podcast. I want to thank all of our listeners out there for tuning in. I just appreciate you keep following us and keep watching our videos and listening to our podcast. Lance and I really appreciate that. Lance does a great job of putting up everything that we have on the website for you and all the content that we have there. So I really appreciate Lance. Well, today on the podcast, we're going to take a look at and review our opening game against Duke. In the second segment, we're going to name our standout players of the game, both on offense and defense, and discuss their performances. And then we're going to go, in our third segment, we're going to go and look at the preview of the upcoming game this Saturday, home opener in Bryant-Denny Stadium against New Mexico State.
You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at Tide100.9.com.
Well, it's great to be back for another podcast. First segment today, we're going to take a look at our first game against the Duke Blue Devils. And I was privileged to go to that game and see it live and in person there. It was a great facility and a great opportunity for us to see some of the things that were taking place there with the team. And I just want to thank all of our listeners out there that listen to our podcast on a weekly basis. Many of you tuned in for our pregame podcast that we did live there from Mercedes-Benz Stadiums, and I just really appreciate the listeners. I'm in awe of the number of people. One of the videos that we did of the $1 Million Band and the pregame warm-ups and discussions of what we saw pregame has gotten over 6,000 views on our Facebook page, so we really appreciate that. Remember, you can always check us out on our Facebook page, the DC Capstone Report page. You can go there and like us on Facebook to get it when we go live. You can get a notification. Also, you can go to our website at the dccapstonereport.com, dccapstonereport.com. You can see our podcast there. You can also download some content such as wallpapers for your phone with schedules and other good pictures that Lance puts up there. So, well, let's get back to just a review of the game against Duke. Seeing it in person, I think I've watched it in person. I've also watched the replay on TV. Seeing it in person really gives you a better perspective of what took place there. Just overall good performance of Alabama. Come out really in the first quarter, no score, but played well, very well on defense. And then as we got our starters back in the second quarter, and some of you don't know, the first quarter there were some suspensions. It was handled internally and it was never made public. But Devonta Smith, Terrell Lewis, Najee Harris, and Brian Robinson were all held out of the first quarter of this game for something that they had violated some team rules. That was never made public, but they didn't play in the first quarter, and that affected the rhythm of the offense, I believe, in the first quarter. Defense played really well. Once we got back to the second quarter, we really did a really good job. The overall view assessment then from the second quarter on was that the offense was clicking on all cylinders, the defense was playing well. Just an overall good victory there in the first game of the season against the Duke Blue Devils. On offense, I think our philosophy was really well. We tried to run the ball to set up the pass. I think what happened in our first quarter, not having Najee Harris, not having Brian Robinson, kind of hurt our game plan, I believe. So I would not judge us on the game plan that we had in this game. I think we look for our next game, maybe our third game, to see how we'll use the run. I think the run was really good. You know, one thing I've learned, if you want to have a balanced offense, it doesn't mean that you're going to run the same number of yards and pass the same number of yards in a given game. Having a balanced offense means that when another team stops you from passing, that you can go to your run and take advantage of that and run on that team. Or if another team stops you from running, you can go and take advantage of your passing attack and take advantage of passing in that game. That's what a balanced offense means. It means you can run or you can pass. And I think Alabama showed that they have a really good balance of offense from passing and running in this first game. I think Steve Sarkisian called a good game. I think the plays were well. We worked in our tight ends well into the game plan. I love that. On offense, also the second thing I love was the jumbo package that we used. I thought that was a great idea to use the jumbo package. In that jumbo package, you saw Matt Womack come in and play a lot of times at the tight end outside of Alex Leatherwood or Jedrick Wills for extra blocking. A lot of times it was used as blocking and pass protection, and that was helpful to read the progressions, get the ball down the field. Sometimes it was used as a run. I also liked in the goal line when you brought in Matt Womack and then you placed Ali Cahoe, the linebacker, as a fullback. He did a good job of blocking. I look for that down the road, maybe in some games down the road, to use him more in the offense there, either running the ball or catching the ball out of the backfield when people come least expect it. So I think seeing those, to see being innovative and using players in different positions is good for Coach Sarkisian. I think Tua did a great job. I'll talk more about him later in the when we get highlights of our spotlight, our players of the game, but he did a great job overall of just running the offense. Being able to read the progression reads and getting the ball to receivers, especially when we went to the slant. I believe the game plan for Duke defensively was to take away the deep ball and make Alabama beat us on the short passing game, and we adjusted that really well and did a good job. The only incompletions that Tua threw were 2 deep balls where the players were covered, and our players were running seam routes. I think Tua was throwing a flag route. But the players were covered anyway. Defense did a good job. And then one time he threw it to Jerry Jeudy, and Jerry Jeudy had the wrong pass called. He thought he was blocking instead of catching the ball. So really the 3 incompletions were just errors or mistakes, I believe. Other than that, Tua had a great game. I think Jerome Ford really stepped up to the plate after his early fumble. He came back and did a good job of running the ball. I was very pleased with the way he played in this game. I think that'll pay dividends down the road if we ever need him come in and spell Najee Harris and Brian Robinson. I look for them to get going when they have a full game under the belt to prepare for this upcoming game. Basically, our wide receivers played really well. Devonta Smith stood out the first quarter, but when he came in, he was targeted 3 specific times in a row and did a good job of catching the ball. I think Jerry Jeudy did an awesome job. Henry Ruggs III and Jalen Waddle all had passes caught and did well. So overall offense, I think it went well. Did a really good job. On our defensive side of the ball, that was a little suspect coming in. How were the freshmen going to play? How was the defense going to hold up against the Cutcliffe, a great coach? Well, immediately out of the gate, we see that David Cutcliffe went into his old bag of tricks and brought out the option, wishbone, wing tee, whatever you want to call it, a veer. It was an option plays that we had not seen from them before. And he was going to try to exploit the movement exploit new linebackers and try to get us who had the pitch man, that sort of thing. But our defense did really good against that option, even though we hadn't seen him, we hadn't practiced against. I was very pleased with him. Overall, on defense perspective, I had 2 observations I think are important. Well, actually 3 observations. One is the freshman middle that I call him, DJ Dell, Christian Harris, and Shane Lee really, really stood up to the test in this game. I thought Shane Lee played well in his position of calling the plays. I think Christian Harris played well. I thought DJ Dell, made a big play on the opening defensive drive to stop in the backfield the running back. So all those freshmen played well. I think the second observation is one of the reasons they played well was the team concept has not been lost on this team. Coach Saban, I believe, has really just hammered that theory in their mind that we lost last year because of some unselfishness and lack of team effort. And this year, don't let that happen. So I saw from where I was sitting and looking at the overall perspective of the game live, I saw multiple occasions where Raekwon Davis, LeBron Ray would turn around and help Shane Lee and Christian Harris get in the right position, get the team in the right plays, make sure they're all on the same page. I saw Shyheim Carter walk up and whisper in Shane Lee's ear, whisper in Christian Harris's ear before plays are called, making sure everybody knows we're on the same page. So I saw a great cohesive unit there that played as a team, and I thought that was really exciting to see that on the defensive side of the ball. And the third observation on defense was our defensive backs, our corners and our safeties really played well in coverage. I thought really played well in coverage against the passing attack of Duke. So overall, I'm pleased with our defense. The kicking game, I thought the freshman kicker did a good job. He didn't have any long run backs for punts. He had only 2 times punted in the game, one for 31 yards, one for 41 yards. So I think he did fair on the punting, on the kicking in the end zone for kickoffs. He did an excellent job. I don't think he had touchback every time. And he missed one long field goal, but was perfect on extra points. So that one long field goal was from the wrong hash, I think. I think it was set up to kick wrong. In warm-ups, I saw Riker hit 50 and 60-yard field goals when positioned in the middle between the hashes. So I look for them to set him up to be successful kicking from the middle from here on out. But overall, I think it was a great game. Did great to start the game, really get the old rust off and come back. So two things I think are sure in this game. We reestablished the Alabama factor. I think we played with tenacity and toughness. And I think we reestablished the team concept. So we look forward to see what we do as we go on the rest of the year. Well, in the second segment here, we always highlight our standout players of the game, both on offense and defense from the previous game. And this week in our game against the Duke Blue Devils on our offense, I'm going to highlight two standout players, and I think it has to be Tua Tagovailoa and Jerry Jeudy. They had a great combination of passing and receiving. As I mentioned earlier, Tua only missed 3 passes all game long. He had a great QBR rating. He did 3 touchdowns, hit 2 tight ends, and hit his wide receivers well. Worked in multiple receivers. I think he threw completions to the tight ends, to running backs, to all the wide receivers, and it started. Plus John Mechie, I believe, even caught a pass late in the game. So overall, Tua did a great job. I think if we want to dial in and really look at his play, I see some improvement. Number 1 in his leadership. Number 2 in his running the ball and being able to avoid getting hurt, avoid the head-on collisions, knowing when to get out of bounds, knowing when to get down. And 3, his progression reads. I think he's been able to do a good job in reading the progressions. And 4th and finally, the really point I think he really adapted to well was Coach Saban wanted him to take what the defense gave him. And once those deep balls got cut off, he started to throw those slants, and those out routes, those crossing routes. We gained a lot of yardage doing that. I've said all along that if we can get Henry Ruggs or Jalen Waddle on a crossing route against any type of defender, it's a mismatch. And so we saw that explored in this game. So I look for going forward him to continue to have good games, to continue to spread the ball around and just really manage the game well. What can you say about Jerry Jeudy? Human highlight film, joystick, juke. I mean, he just juked out the receivers, juked out the defensive backs. He ran the receiving routes well. I think he only missed a couple of plays. One where he just missed on out. He missed the play call and was blocking instead of receiving. Other on the deep ball where I think he was running a seam route and maybe Tua was throwing a flag route. But either than that, otherwise he was good. He blocked well. He had one holding call, I think, on a punt return. Other than that, that's a mistake that I could see. Basically, he did just a really good job. I think he had 10 catches in this game and just did a really fantastic job. I think Jerry Jeudy, everyone can see why he won the Blitnikoff Award last year, and I just don't see any slack up there this year. I think he's a shoe-in to win it again if he keeps having games like he did against Duke in this game. One thing in particular I was very pleased about was his downfield blocking. I think a couple of times you see him when Ruggs or Waddle has the ball, that Jeudy is blocking downfield and doing a really good job of that. So overall, I think it was just a great day. So our offensive standout players of the game are Tua and Jerry Jeudy on offense. Now on defense, I think I'm gonna give this to the 3 freshmen. The standout players of the game, in my mind, are the 3 freshmen: DJ Dale, Christian Harris, and Shane Lee. Now, at the beginning of the year, if you'd have told me we'd have had this good of defensive play and that Dylan Moses would not play in the game, I just wouldn't have believed it. But Dylan Moses goes down, the heart and soul of that defensive linebacking core, the play caller, if you will, the quarterback of the defense. And Shane Lee comes in and does a really great job of filling in for Dylan Moses. Christian Harris comes in for Joshua McMillan, who is slated to play alongside Dylan Moses, and does a fantastic job. Both of these young men, Christian Harris and Shane Lee, are very athletic. They can roam sideline to sideline. But what caught my attention in this game was they stayed at home. They weren't fooled by the misdirection of the option sleight of hand that David Cutcliffe tried to show to him. And also, the second thing that caught my eye was both Shane Lee and Christian Harris were very good coverage in the passing game. A lot of times you try to exploit a young linebacker by sending someone with speed across the middle and a crossing route, but Duke did that several times, and Christian Harris and Shane Lee both did a good job of covering. The other thing that impressed me about the two young men was they weren't afraid to put the hat on the ball and really make big hits. So I think we've got two fantastic young freshman linebackers that are going to just learn on the job, and I'm sure there'll be growing pains. There'll be days where they have mistakes, but I just think the upside of them drastically outweighs the downside of them being freshmen. The third person that I'm talking about here is DJ Dale, number 94. We wonder how we're gonna replace Deron Payne. Well, Quinion Williams shows up, and we talk about how great Quinion Williams is, and he goes in the first round to the NFL. So now we say, well, how are we going to replace Quinion Williams? Who's going to get that? And who would have thought that a freshman from right here in Birmingham, Alabama, right in the area where Deron Payne and Quinion Williams come from, right here in Birmingham, that a freshman would come on the scene and do as well as he did. But everybody's been telling me about this young man from the very beginning when he enrolled early, had an opportunity to play through the spring and the spring game, and he is not disappointed. The very first play of the game, he blows up the man in front of him and just imposes his will and gets in the backfield and stops the running back for a loss. And that, to me, set the tone for his play. That's something you expect Quinion Williams and Deron Payne to do, and DJ Dale says, hey, you can expect it from me as well. So I think we're poised with these three freshmen as my standout players of the game this week. They're poised to have a big season. If they can stay free from injury, I think our defense, along with our returning players like Terrell Lewis and Anthony Jennings, Raekwon Davis, and LeBron Ray, our up-front play is in good hands for the rest of the season. Well, in our third and final segment here, we're going to preview the game, and we're going to make our pick for this upcoming week. Saturday in September the 7th. The kickoff's at 3 o'clock here in Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's our home opener. Hope all of you come out to the game this week. Coach Saban wants the stands full and just have an intimidating place to play. The New Mexico State Aggies come in to play. Now, if you're looking and want to know anything about them, they're going to spread the field. They're going to throw the ball, and they're going to try to throw it downfield. They're going to try to attack. They're going to try to hit explosive plays through the passing game. They make no bones about it. They have a running game, but they are a passing team, and they're going to have players running in all different directions and hoping to get lost in the crossing routes. And they want somebody running free on every play. That's their goal, and they're going to try to throw the ball. I think we're going to have to counteract that with a good defense. I think our young linebackers are going to have to stay at home across in the middle. We can't forget about the run, but we're going to have to put pressure on the quarterback at every turn. So in this past game, we got pressure with Terrell Lewis and Xavier McKinney. I think Xavier McKinney had a little nicked up in this with a hand injury, maybe playing with a club on his left hand. So I still think our team with pressure, with bringing pressure on from McKinney and Terrell Lewis, Anthony Jennings, and then our push up front, we'll try to limit their passing ability. So I think if we do that on defense, we have a really solid performance in this game. On offense, what I always say to do, we got to limit mistakes. We got to play to our potential, to our standard, not play to the level of your competition. We need to play to our standard. This past week, Tennessee plays Georgia State at home with the idea that they were going to go in and win that game and get a victory. Paid them almost $1 million to come to Neyland Stadium. Well, you know the outcome of that story. Georgia State beats Tennessee 38-30. So any given Saturday, you can be beaten if you don't play up to your standard. You play down to the standard of another team. So if we limit our turnovers and we limit our mistakes and we play up to the standard of Alabama football, there's no reason that we don't win this game big. On offense, I think we're going to establish our running game. I think if you look for 4 quarters, you're going to see the established Najee Harris and Brian Robinson running from first quarter on. And then we're going to set that up with some big pass plays downfield. I look for in this game to be able to hit some downfield shots. I believe that our wide receivers are just much better than the New Mexico State secondary in this case, and I really believe that we can exploit them deep. Two of those are great deep ball. I think in this game you'll see them do that. We'll hit some big plays in the running game. I predict we may even hit a big play in the return game. I think Jalen Waller may take one back for a touchdown. So the touchdowns are going to be many in this game. And if Coach Saban doesn't call off the Dogs or call off the Crimson Tide early, it's good to get a big score and big out of hand. So my prediction in this game is Alabama wins it handily. We play well. We limit our mistakes. We limit our turnovers. Limit our penalties, and we play well. Alabama wins this game against New Mexico State 63-3. Well, that's all for the DC Capstone Report this week. We hope you enjoy listening. Again, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I hope that you'll go to our Facebook page and like us on Facebook, and you'll check out our website at dccapstonereport.com. Until next time, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report signing off.